Ja, god morgon hörni och välkomna till Stora Aktiedagarna. Första presentationen här är digitalt som ni kanske ser och kommer även vara på engelska, så jag skiftar lite kort här. So I will now hand over the word to you here, Peter George, CEO of Arctic Minerals. You have the floor.
I guess we only have 15 minutes today, so I'll get straight into it. But really what I want viewers to take away from today's presentation is, look, if you are a savvy investor looking for leverage into the mining industry and you understand the current capital rotation from tech stocks into resources, then Arctic Minerals with copper, gold, silver and critical metals exploration and development focused projects in the Nordics, it's going to be of great interest to you. But we're effectively a new company since the reverse takeover in October 2024. So look, just basically ignore everything that's happened before then. We set ourselves some goals and we achieved those goals in 25 through the rebuilding of the board and management team. We recapitalised the company through the raising of about 40 million krona, and we switched the focus to our extremely valuable Hennes Bay copper silver project in Dalsland. And we have a very experienced board management with both vast international and Nordic experience in creating massive shareholder returns. We have a highly experienced management team in exploring, developing and operating mines in the Nordics. And we have an amazing head start really with the 55 million tonnes of high-grade copper silver ore at our flagship Hennes Bay project in Dalsland, but that's really only just the beginning. We believe it's a lot bigger than that. But we're not just a one-trick pony either, given the massive potential upside from our second advanced high-grade gold and copper exploration project at Bidjovagge in Norway, and our greenfields exploration porphyry copper gold and epithermal gold project sitting in between the Aitik and Lava projects in northern Sweden. So it's a lot of news flow planned for 26. And I guess just things to watch at our flagship Hennes Bay project. And we have a timeline of construction, or to construction I should say, of 5 years. Drilling is set to commence at our Hennes Bay project, looking to expand on the Stora resource. The work on the PEA has commenced, with the first phase of this being the highly successful underground conceptual study. And we've commenced our baseline studies into the potential impacts on the flora, the fauna, the water and heritage have also been commenced. And the aim of that is to achieve our mining environmental permits within a realistic timeframe. So just a brief on our portfolio. As mentioned, Hennes Bay is our flagship project. This is a historical project going back into the over 100 years, where there was some mining there at the Stora Strand project as part of that on our tenement. But the main focus is the sediment hosted stratiform copper silver deposit there. We have 55.4 million tonnes at around about 1% copper equivalent, or 0.8% copper and 20.8 grams per tonne silver. There's been no modern exploration for over 40 years, and less than 5% of the project has actually been drill tested. So massive potential upside. But I'll come back to the project. Our former flagship project and Bidjovagge project up in Finnmark in northern Norway, a project in its own right with fantastic upside, has a current resource of 3.3 million tonnes at about 0.97% copper and 1.2 grams per tonne of gold. Already have the mining permits awarded. It has been somewhat stuck in recent times due to political issues pertaining to not being able to come to agreements with the Sami peoples, but we're working on that in the background, and I wouldn't discount this as a project that's potentially going to come back into importance into the near future. But with intersections of 18 metres at 2.2% copper and 33.8 grams per tonne gold, these are world-class style intercepts up there. Well, we also have our Swan Lake project. This sits up, as I mentioned, sits up between Aitik and Lava. We recently put out our geophysics on that particular project there, and we're quite convinced that we have another copper porphyry and a epithermal gold deposit, which is just one drill hole away from having a major discovery. So looking forward to continue work on that. Again, we don't have much time. The 55 million tonne Stora resource, look, we were very fortunate. There's about 14,000 metres of drilling put into the project by the Swedish state going back into the 70s and 80s. nearly half a million tonnes of copper and 37 million ounces, or just a bit over a tonne of silver sitting in the ground. Critical metals, strategic metals as far as the EU is concerned. And already a project of strategic significance or RICS interests for the Swedish state. As I mentioned, not just the 55 million tonnes. Hopefully you can see here on the right-hand side this particular view of the system. Basically Dingelvik, this little red area here, that's where we have the 55 million tonnes that we reported last year. But we have another 5 deposits which are all along strike on the mineralisation, outcropping at surface, which didn't quite make the JORC compliant resource standard, but at least another 25 million tonnes sitting there ready to go. And I can, happy to report that our drill rig is on the way, and we hope to start drilling to bringing those into the JORC compliant resource within the next week or so. But this whole purple area here that we have, that demonstrates the mineralised horizon. And as you can see, we've got grab samples at surface, nearly 18 kilometres away, 1.78% copper and 40 grams per tonne silver. So this is quite typical of a sediment-hosted stratiform copper-silver deposit, very similar to the copper Schiffer down in Germany and in Poland. So these things are extensionally really large projects, and we now have 414 square kilometres after just having a small area awarded. But as mentioned, less than 5% of the area has actually been drill tested. So a huge amount of potential upside. As I said at the start, our main focus last year was on recapitalising the board, reorganising the management, recapitalising the company, reorganising the board and the management team. But what we also decided quite early on was that we wanted to investigate some more modern geophysical techniques when really nothing's been done in the area for 50 years. So we ended up deciding upon the Airborne Magnetotelluric or MMT survey. We ran that and we produced those results earlier this year. The Dingelvik area where we have our 55 million tonnes is here. But what this survey demonstrated to us is that we have a target area of at least 10 times bigger than Dingelvik in this particular area that we ran the survey. And keep in mind that that's only 134 square kilometres out of the 414 square kilometres that we have. So approximately a third. Highly successful survey, a real game changer for us. The anomalies that are popping up in the system demonstrate that there's an awful lot more ore there to be found, and that's really influencing our second phase of our drilling program, which we've already submitted our applications for, and we hope to get some responses back on those soon. And we've also planning to continue to do more geophysics work in the summer, so only a few months away now. We've also done an underground conceptual study. This was part of the first part of a PEA that we'll be doing. This was a fantastic result for us, which demonstrated that we have the potential for a 4 million tonne per annum decline capacity underground mine, room and pillar mine, very similar mining method to what's being used down in the copper Schiffer in Germany and Poland. But again, the big difference being, of course, that we're mining from surface and down as compared to down there where they're up to 1,000 kilometres underground. What I'm really looking for here, or to demonstrate, was that we have multi-decade production potential. At the moment, just with the 55 million tonnes, it's suggesting 12 to 15 years. My plan is to get this project up to between 200 and 300 million tonnes relatively quickly with the exploration and resource upgrade work that we're wanting to do in the next couple of years. And this will really give us an intergenerational project or multi-generational project over multiple decades with massive upside. The infrastructure in the area is fantastic. It's an area of Sweden which is screaming out for some industrialisation. It's really poorly populated part of Sweden, but in saying that, it's got some fantastic infrastructure. I mean, I've got two 400 kilovolt power lines running over the top of the property. I've got two railway lines running over the top of the property. I'm only an hour and a half from Gothenburg, and just some amazing access to resources and infrastructure in this area. And of course, with the big part of that being a significant portion of Sweden's power comes from nuclear and water power. So a real benefit to us as we move forward. The forward work plan for Hennes Bay. Look, the stakeholder engagement is a massive part of what we're doing. A huge amount of effort is going into discussions at a political level, both on the state and also at the local level. Also, significant conversations are happening with landowners and with business owners in the area. As I stated, we're about to start our first drilling program, and we're already employing local people to give us a hand to get that project up and running. The environmental, heritage and cultural investigations, they've already started. Baseline studies are extremely important. We need to understand how our potential operations could impact on the local environment. The resource expansion, our first drilling program starts next week. We're looking to bring those other prospects in and around the area into the JORC compliant resource. The 10 times larger area of target area that we've discovered from our recent geophysical work. That's the second phase of drilling, so about 8,000 metres worth of drilling applications have gone in to test those particular areas. But we've also starting to submit a program for bringing our current 55 million tonnes from inferred up into indicated. So some news will come out of that at a later date. Testing of the exploration model, obviously a lot more work in the field needs to be done. For the further geophysical surveys with the MMT survey, as I already mentioned. And the project development side. So on the preliminary metallurgical testing, we had some major wins recently where we discovered some old reports going back into the 80s and 90s, which suggest a very, very high recovery of the of the copper and of the silver up into the 90% rate, and potentially producing a copper concentrate up to 38% copper with a 458 grams per tonne silver tail within that. And I think one of the other important things that came out of it, that there was no deleterious elements within the metallurgical testing. So that was a big bonus for us and a major step forward for our preliminary economic assessment. Already well on the way for the PEA with the underground conceptual study. So looking forward to having a lot of good news coming out from Hennes Bay in the near future. But our balanced portfolio, as mentioned already, we're not a one-trick pony. We have Hennes Bay and Bidjovagge as already advanced projects. These are projects that are already heading into the development phase. So I guess we could start calling ourselves a development company now. But we also have our Swan Lake and our Kusi projects, which are greenfields exploration projects in highly, highly prospective areas. So we're in a fantastic position. And obviously each time we hit one of these milestones, as you can see in our pyramid here, we expect to get revalued. So lots of news flow coming up. Corporate summary, we've only got 47 million shares on issue. We don't have any warrants outstanding. We don't have any options outstanding. So 47.03 million shares, that's what we have. A share price copped a bit of a hammering the last week or two, obviously with the war in Iran, but still holding up very well compared over the last 12 months. A market cap of about 336 million krona. Yeah, I guess just the why invest in Arctic Minerals being the last slide here. Look, I think it's really important that we need to reiterate the fact that we've got future-facing critical raw materials here. The copper and the silver, these are strategic metals and critical metals as far as the EU and the rest of the world is concerned, for that matter. But not only that, we have a significant amount of gold, but we have some really interesting byproducts with our gallium, germanium, vanadium, and rare earth elements. That's also something to keep an eye on as we move forward. We have the right geology. We're looking for large-scale copper deposits. So we've got the sediment-hosted stratiform copper at at Henners Bay. We've got the porphyry style up at Swan Lake. So these are definitely the sorts of projects that we're looking for. The right people. So we've got a fantastic team of people that have got a huge amount of international and Nordic experience and a massive a massive record for discovery and shareholder value creation. The right jurisdiction. Look, Sweden, Norway, Finland, these are tier 1 mining jurisdictions around the world, really trying to lead the energy transition and lead the way for Europe in the EU Critical Raw Materials Act. The balanced portfolio I was just talking about, but we're nearly half a million tonnes of contained copper and 1,000 tonnes of silver at Henners Bay. We got a fantastic start, but also with Bidjovagge and our other projects. So yeah, I guess just really positioned for being in the Nordic markets with the assets in Sweden, Norway and Finland, together with our Swedish and our Finnish management, of course, and being listed on the Nordic NASDAQ. So it gives us a massive advantage being located where our projects are today. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, over to you, Ludwig, if you had any questions.
Thank you so much for that. Maybe a first question here. The geophysical survey at Henneviken covered only about 34% of the area. How much upside do you see in the remaining license area here?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So look, I'll just go back to this slide here. So the 134 square kilometres really goes only over where you could see the different colours and the different anomalies in this area. But what you can also see is this red line here. This is the mineralisation at surface, outcropping at surface. So it lines up obviously very nicely with that. And that was the point for us doing the test there in the first place for the geophysics. But you can see it also continues all the way down to the south. And as per this particular slide here, 18 kilometres away, we can see grab samples at surface of up to nearly 1.8% copper and 40 grams per tonne silver. So I'm expecting that we're going to see a significant jump up in the target size from there as well.
Thank you. If we look a little bit on the conceptual mining study, it suggests that underground mining is technically feasible. What steps remain before an economic study could be done here?
Yeah, well, look, I deliberately haven't done an economic study on this yet. I think my first plan was to demonstrate, firstly, that it was possible to mine this. And being a mining engineer, that's obviously of interest. The PEA will include an NPV and an IRR, which I know is what everybody's hanging out to see. I had held off initially on doing this, mostly because I wanted to demonstrate to the market that it wasn't just a 55 million tonne project, that I want to get this up to the 200 to 300 million tonne mark. Of course, that's going to take a couple of years worth of drilling. But I think with the copper price and the silver price the way that they are today, the numbers that I'm looking at internally are really exciting. And that's one of the reasons why I'm potentially looking at bringing the PEA forward in time. I'm not going to put a date on it, but yeah, just be aware that we're working on it. And as soon as I can get the results out, I'm going to be doing that.
Thank you. Is a long-term strategy to develop this project yourself, or is maybe to bring in a partner in a later state, or what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, look, another good question. Look, we've got all options open to us. I mean, as with the team here, we have built projects before, and I've built projects personally, so I'm perfectly comfortable in taking a mine through to construction and into production. I'm an ex-Boliden mining engineer, having run a number of their large projects, so I'm quite comfortable in operating up in the Nordics. But obviously, from the outside looking in, this is especially if we can get this up to 200 to 300 million tonne, this is going to be a world-class size project, and is going to be of a huge amount of interest to the big companies. So, look, I think that we can do everything from doing it ourselves through to partnering with somebody else, through to potentially selling the project into the future. So I guess we'll just see what happens, and we will do the best thing by our shareholders.
Thank you. Maybe a question on the financials here. How long do you have a cash runway here? given the exploration plans for 2026?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have about, I think at last look, around about 16 million SEK in the bank at the moment. So we're looking to, so that will last us probably through to the middle of the year, I expect. Especially given that we're going to be starting drilling in the next few weeks. So we're in a pretty good position with the amount of cash that we have in the bank at the moment.
Thank you. And maybe one question to sum it up here. Why should the investor take a closer look at Arctic Minerals as a next potential investment?
Yeah, well, look, I think there's been a quite an obvious shift in the market from a capital rotation away from tech stocks into the resources industry. From my perspective, looking at Europe and the world as a whole, the copper and the silver, these are just absolutely critical to the future of the world. And, I'm a firm believer that we've already reached peak copper, which means that we can't actually mine the amount of copper that the world requires just to maintain the lifestyle that we all have. And then you throw the electrification of everything into that, it actually concerns me where the copper is going to come from. But, given that we've got a potential copper mine here, that's a good position for us. And I think also with silver, we've had 5 years of deficits in the silver market. And that's resulted in the silver price growing from sort of $28 per ton, $28 per ounce this time last year to around 90 today. I think we got up to 120 at one stage. That's just symptomatic of the fact that there is very hard to get hold of these metals today. So if you're looking to leverage into exposure to the copper and silver market in a company where really we haven't had a run on our share price yet because we're still quite early days, but we're trying to demonstrate the value in our projects. So the leverage to these metals going forward is immense.
Thank you so much for your presentation here, Peter, and thank you for joining Stora Aktiedagarna. It was nice to have you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.